BA versus DA. What's the difference? Okay, so BA stands for building approval, DA stands for development approval, also known as development application, town planning approval, and goes by a few different names. Now, both of these terms are construction-related approvals. However, they are two very different construction-related approvals, different in my personal opinion in 4 key ways. So first and foremost, what do they actually focus on? So building approval, in my opinion, focuses internally or inwards. It's focused on things that are going to affect like the livability on the site, the future residents, how they enjoy the property, the homeowners, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm talking things like, is it going to be structurally sound? Is it going to be waterproof? Is it going to be fire rated? Like I said, those things that are internal considerations. Town planning, on the other hand, the DA, development application, it focuses externally. So it's focused on, okay, are you going to adversely impact the neighbour's amenity? So access to sunlight, daylight, privacy, all of that sort of stuff. Are you going to push your cars out onto the street and therefore create a congestion or parking problem in the street? Are you going to generate unreasonable noise for the street and the neighbours and all of that sort of stuff? The external factors or considerations. Next key difference is the timing. So when do you actually do these approvals? So building approval, it happens at the 11th hour. Like it happens right when construction is about to start. You need to have engaged your builder, pay the QBCC license, pay the Q leave, all of that fun stuff. You need to be ready to start digging that dirt and turning that dirt over. Town planning approval, on the other hand, typically happens maybe 3-6 months in advance if we're talking house renovation, sometimes a year in advance or even further in advance if it's a bigger sort of project. So yeah, town planning happens much, much, much earlier in the process. Next question is who is responsible, next key difference I should say, is who is responsible for these approvals. So BA is issued by the private certifier, commonly referred to as the certifier, or if you use terminology down south, it's like building surveyor or something like that. They use some weird and wonderful terminology. Now, people mistakenly, to this day, still often refer to BA as council approval. Thing is, yeah, that approval process, it was privatised back in the late 1990s. Like, council does not, I shouldn't say does not, 99.999% of the time, council does not issue building approval anymore. That is done by a private consultant. Town planning approval, on the other hand, that is issued by council. So as a private town planner, I cannot give you development approval. You need to go through council to be able to get that approval. And then last but not least, the final key difference is when do you trigger, how often do you trigger, all that sort of stuff. So when it comes to building approval, you trigger building approval 99% of the time. Anytime you get up a hammer, unless you're doing something really minor and inconsequential, like look around for inspiration, a fence. If you're doing a fence up to 2 meters in height, typically it's exempt. If you're doing a shed up to like 10 square meters in area, 3 meters in height, typically it's exempt. You don't need building approval. But 99% of the time, you're going to need building approval. Town planning approval, on the other hand, is a lot less common. It's required a lot less frequently, let's just say. So I don't know what the stats are, but off the top of my head, I'm going to say less than 20% of the time, you'll actually need town planning approval. So something is ticking all the boxes. It's within the reasonable expectations for the area. Let's just say you're doing a 2-story house in a middle ring suburb. There's no protected vegetation, no flooding, none of that stuff to consider. You're probably not going to need town planning approval. So yeah, it's required a lot less frequently. So those are the 4 key differences. What does it focus on? When do you need it? Who issues it? And how often is it actually triggered? Hopefully that gives you some insight or understanding as to what those key differences are between those 2 terms. I think that covers off everything I want to talk about. And as I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got 3. Number 1, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number 2, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number 3, what was my number 3? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.